So I'm dry heaving, and I'm getting mad because I can't control myself. And to kind of explain that is, I've been through Marine Special Operations Assessment Selection Individual Training course. I've been to survival school. I've been to most training in combat to know I can control my head. I can control the chaos. That's what I spent a career doing, is controlling chaos. And for some fucking reason, I cannot fix what's going on with me right now, and I'm clueless as to what it is. And I am going to cultivate cannabis, and I am going to help veterans with cannabis so they don't have to be laying on the bathroom tile in their underwear, dry heaving with no vomit left because they didn't take a little white pill. I grew up in North Houston, Texas. Didn't really have a lot, but we weren't begging for nothing. I was a senior when 9/11 happened, and then that kind of changed the whole world as we all know it in America. I was pretty dead set on I'm gonna go serve. Where, how, and what wasn't there yet. I still had another half year school left, and then I just kind of found my calling to go into the Marine Corps. A buddy of mine had went to the Marine Corps in Texas. The recruiting stations, man, they had lines wrapped around them. It wasn't like you could just go and sign up and leave tomorrow. Like, you probably would be lucky to talk to someone that day because there's a free line wrapped around the place. Yeah, I got in, did 4 years, did some combat tours to Iraq. I did a life switch, changed everything, made my priorities to go get over there and take selection and do ITC and become a Marine Raider and operate downrange, and that's what I did. So the next 7.5, 8 years I spent doing that, traveled all over the world in support of the Operation Enduring Freedom. I got real banged up, never took a round or anything like that, but just going full speed 100% all the time. I just broke my body down just like an athlete or anybody. If you see a football player going across the middle and getting hit 10 times a game, eventually he's going to get banged up. Same thing, we just went full speed everywhere we went. At that point in time, from the shoulder surgery and the knees and stuff, I would have been on oxycodone, Percocet, while active duty, prescribed it, took it as the doctor said, take it. But I was on it for so long, I didn't really know what addiction was because I was in a fast-paced environment. It was always train for the next deployment, go deploy, come back, train for the next deployment, deploy, come back. And it was a cycle that never stopped for 8 years. When I came off, you're home and you come off the fentanyl or the morphine and the heavy doses of narcotics that you're on, you get your clarity back. You have to stay on these pills. Well, I didn't really need the pills. I was a civilian, so at the time I was using cannabis. I had introduced myself to cannabis when I got out in 2015. It fascinated me on how it helped anti-inflammatory and just kind of helped my mental state. And I wanted to be a part of it more and find out why and grow, so I did. And I started growing. I've done everything from indoor, outdoor, living soils, salts, had a blast doing it, and got to learn and meet a lot of good people and got a first-class education. When you're in a special operations unit, that's all that lives. You're everywhere, and there's not enough of you, and you're on constant rotation, and there is no downtime. Maybe they call it white space, whatever they want to call it. It never exists. You're constantly moving. It's tough on families. I always laughed and used to say this is a single man's job because it's hard on people with families. And the best way I can explain it is you're in the fast lane, and you got your own lane, and it's everyone that's with you, and you guys just have your pedal to the floor. There's no break. Everything's go 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 all the time. It can take a toll on any human being operating like that. I took a step away and went into the cannabis space to kind of help my brothers and sisters who need to get in the slow lane and maintain, give them a different tool for the toolbox, I got in the Marine Corps fleet in 2004, 2004, and the first thing that they told me was don't unpack your sea bags, you're deploying. And these guys had all gotten back from Fallujah and things like that, and they were just, go get your will and testament done and live for today. And so from that point on, I think probably from 2005 to the day I got out, I was living it year by year. I didn't expect to be alive the next year. That was the honest truth. I didn't look past 365 days because there was no point. My training schedule was that. I lived training schedule to training schedule. That's how I lived. Not everybody didn't do that. That was just, that I'm the all or nothing kind of guy. I'm not going to put half my foot in the game and play. If I'm going to go in and play, you're getting all of it, 100% of it. So, it just between the training, the deployments, that it's hard. That's why I always laugh. It's a single man's game, and holding relationships. I mean, I don't expect to come back from a deployment. Why would I expect someone to wait for me to come back? Girlfriends and things like that, just don't wait for me. I might come back in a box. So, go live your life. And that's kind of how I lived it all the way to the end. It's just, you have to reprogram yourself to get out of the fast lane. You really do. And it's hard for a lot of veterans, and I can understand some of the issues. I mean, we've been fighting a war that some service members' kids are now fighting. Think about that. We invaded Iraq, Afghanistan in 01, 03. Some of those guys and gals that were there, their children are now fighting the same war. Think about that. Like, I mean, of course there's going to be issues. I mean, look at the suicide numbers for veterans coming home or at home versus deaths occurred in combat. I mean, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's astronomical. I know that. We're dying at 4 times the rate at home than we are in combat. So that there's a toll this 20-year war has taken on a whole generation. It was the best job I ever had. How do you explain that? Being a Marine Raider, those guys at that time frame, the shit that was asked of us as a brand new unit in Special Operations, and those Marines and what they did, shit, man. It was an honor. But the truth of the reality is that what we were doing every day in the Helmand Valley would get us fucking killed. And we lived like that in America. And I drank a lot, went real hard, trained hard, executed the mission at the utmost of our ability, and we partied hard. So I say it's a fast lifestyle because it is. It's like a friend of mine, a retired Raider of mine once said that it's like being in Motley Crue without all the drugs. It's just, it's just take a ride on the wild side, you know what I mean? Like, the endorphin rush of near-death experiences every fucking deployment over near-death experiences in training, because the training we're doing is not patty cake shit. We're training high speed. So you almost look at death like, not today, and you just smile and go, and that's that sums it up. I don't know how to explain that. Like that you're alive, and you couldn't be more alive. So I think when the roller coaster stops is why we see a lot of issues with the veterans these days, is because most of these veterans in the last 20 years were serving during an active war. We were talking to an old World War II vet, a Marine, and just showing the debt of gratitude from Marines now to then. We're just explaining how much more of a men they were than us. And this one Marine stopped us and said, no. And I'm not going to argue with this 90-year-old man who fought in the Pacific or was in France, you know what I mean? We just asked him, well, what do you mean? And he goes, well, when I served, the guy to my left and right, there was not a guarantee that they volunteered. It was probably that they were told to be there. They were drafted. He goes, this is the first time in American history that we fought a war this long with a volunteer force only. He's like, it's unreal. You fought a war for 20 years and didn't have to run a draft. Let that sink in. Well, they talk shit about our generation. Oh, you're the video game generation. You grew, you're the 80s. 80s to the 90s. You know what? We saw a bunch of video game babies go there and take care of business, so you know, shit happens in combat. You know, you can't predict that. You roll the dice every time you leave the wire. My story with opioid usage started like anybody else's. I was injured. I was given pain pills as prescription by a naval doctor who knew what the fuck they were doing and was very, let me know how to take the medication. They give you the piece of paper. It's a narcotic. You got to sign for it. So it's this piece of paper you sign, and it tells you everything on how to take it. What happens if take this pill if it doesn't work right, or take this pill or put you on another pill. But nothing was holistic medicine, which is I get it. So I take the pills as requested. I wasn't much on abusing drugs. I was never much into drugs that much. I obviously didn't have a lot of time between post high school and the military to experiment with anything. And so I took the drugs as needed. And after taking them for a while, I guess it's almost like it's part of the routine. I'm going to go out, I'm going to train hard, I'm going to come back, I'm going to take care of my body. My body hurts where my injury site is, or my repaired injury site, so I take the medication as it says on the paper. Years of that go by, and it didn't bother me while I was in the service. I didn't understand what addiction was or even know that I was addicted. It's when I got out, there was I had to get one last surgery, and what it was is they had to take a piece of a tendon here and graft it onto a tendon here and fix my wrist and where my ulnar side of my wrist, my ulnar tendon. A hand surgeon from UCSD come over, who is one of the top hand surgeons in Southern California, walked across the bridge from UCSD, which works closely with La Jolla VA, which is awesome, and he came over with his staff, and they conducted a very extensive surgery on my wrist. And I was given the fentanyl, the morphine, all the narcotics, the pain, the nerve blocks. It was a series of 3 surgeries, and the final surgery, they had put pins in there, anchored cut the tendon, anchored the tendon, grafted the tendon, and I had a situation where a cast up to here, just like this, and a big bump over where my pins were, and I could not move it. I could not bump it. I couldn't do anything because my graft was needed to set. And if I bumped it or screwed it up, I could compromise the graft. As the narcotics wore off, I got onto the oxycodones, oxys, and we're taking them. And a couple weeks after the surgery, I don't really need the pain meds anymore. Not like I did coming off of surgery. Like I hit a point now where my body was healing, and I didn't really need them. I'm with my girlfriend. We're living together. And I wake up in the morning and I'm just drenched in sweat. I'm dry heaving on the tile in my boxers with my cast in the air like this. I'm like low crawling to the toilet because I don't know what, on my stomach, I don't know what's happening. I thought maybe I didn't know what was going on, to be honest. I never felt like that. So I'm dry heaving, and I'm getting mad because I can't control myself. And to kind of explain that is, I've been through Marine Special Operations Assessment Selection Individual Training Course. I've been to survival school. I've been to most training in combat to know I can control my head. I can control the chaos. That's what I spent a career doing, is controlling chaos. And for some fucking reason, I cannot fix what's going on with me right now, and I'm clueless as to what it is. I get to the point where I'm like hitting the toilet, cracking the porcelain, I'm punching the side of the wall in the little bath toilet area, and my girlfriend's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know what's going on." I was like, Marine Corps boot camp didn't beat me, war didn't beat me, MARSOC training didn't beat me, nothing beat me. But right now, I cannot get right. And she goes, "This is what withdrawals are. Have you taken your medicine?" And I said, "No, I stopped taking it because I only take it at night. I don't really need it in the mornings or anything right now. I don't really hurt." And she goes, "Well, this is withdrawals. This is what withdrawing off long-term opioid use is." And I was like, what the fuck? I had family that have been on heroin since they were 15. I always wondered, well, why can't they just stop? At that point in time, I knew the hurt and the just rottenness that stuff could bring. And again, I didn't get a packet on how addictive this shit was. I didn't get a packet on this stuff. I mean, there's a sentence and a paragraph, but they did nothing to prepare you for what just happened. So
I being me, just got mad. And when I get mad, I channel and I lock in with my ADD, and I'm like, never, ever again. I took all the 17 pill bottles I had in my fucking pill cabinet, dumped them down the toilet, flushed them all. When I went back to see the surgeon and the doctors, they commended me for what I did, but they also told me don't flush them down because I'm getting flipper high. They told me how to properly discard medicine. So from that point on, I went that route, but they also didn't shun me either. And that's when I had a doctor pull me aside in the VA and explain to me there was a possible opioid epidemic happening, and that they were proud of what I did and X, Y, and Z. And I was like, well, how come no one told me there was an opioid epidemic when you guys were shelling these things out by the hundreds every month to me? You know what I mean? So, look, it is what it is. It's not the VA, it's not the doctors. I know their hands are tied. You know, there's the lawyers, everyone's involved in this stuff. It's not just black and white. If it was black and white, then the world would just operate. But we live in the gray, and it is what it is. But ever since that point in time, I was going to figure out a way to never have anybody ever have to go through that again, if they didn't have to. So that's when I kind of just, again, the ADD kicked in and I zeroed in. I am going to cultivate cannabis, and I am going to help veterans with cannabis so they don't have to be laying on the bathroom tile in their underwear, dry heaving with no vomit left because they didn't take a little white pill. And that's kind of where it's been ever since 2016. That's been my mission, our mission here at Hellman Valley, is to help address the situation. I'm not pointing a finger. I'm not blaming anyone. All I'm saying is let us, as cannabis industry, come in and offer a tool in the toolbox for people and allow it to happen. Don't block us anymore. If you're going to acknowledge there's an epidemic, then you need to acknowledge there's other ways to go about this. So my journey with medical cannabis essentially started with the cast on my arm and pins in my wrist. So at that point in time, once my drive, once my focus is kind of set, I got into school. I found a sustainable agriculture program which included soil science, plant science, integrated pest management, you name it across the board, and was lucky enough to do it in San Diego and found out some fun facts about the San Diego area and how micro farming and small farms and sustainable agriculture is such a big proponent in San Diego County outside of cannabis, just with our everyday agriculture. So it got me to thinking and understanding, well, pollution, we're switching to electric cars, and I have no dog in the fight. I don't know enough to debate the subject, but I can argue and say that most of the carbon being released in the air is from farms. The agriculture industry produces a lot of carbon in the air by the way we farm. The way we farm with salts, the way we till the earth. We're releasing carbon at a cyclic rate. And that is affecting, that's what you think of as a greenhouse gas and things like that. So sometimes we can't grow outside. Sometimes we're just in an environment where I have to bring it indoors. I'm in the desert. I'm somewhere just inhospitable for plant life, but I need to cultivate plants there. That's where indoor came in, and that's where the LED technology is kind of really taken off. I ended up speaking to some of my professors on the side. They understood what I did. They knew what I was doing with my company, and I was waiting for a little bit of blowback, and kind of like, but they were so excited, and we were just like, no, look, you are an agribusiness. This is exactly what we're teaching, and you're doing it every day. Could you talk to others and help others in the class? I was like, absolutely. I remember one time I was trying to explain the anatomy of a plant to another Marine who was a business student taking plant science because it's a prerequisite for his science. And he's like, bro, he looks at me and goes, I said, were you a Marine? He goes, yeah. I said, you? I said, yeah. And he goes, I don't know what I'm doing. I said, sit down, dude, I got you. And I was explaining the plant, but I almost used the cannabis plant when I was talking, and my teacher goes, no, go ahead. My professor says, go ahead, continue. Explain it how you know it. So I showed a picture of one of my cannabis plants, and I pointed out the plant anatomy on the plant the same as the book did, but the book wasn't showing cannabis. He, of course, was like, holy shit, that's weed. Now I got his attention. Second, now that I have his attention, now he's learning plant. It just happened to be a cannabis plant instead of whatever the textbook has. And it got through to him, and we worked in a synergy there. And what led me to medical cannabis was initially the injuries. I was taking anywhere from 1,200 milligrams of ibuprofen a day down to 200 milligrams of ibuprofen a day using cannabis. My liver said thanks. My body said thanks. It's not that ibuprofen's bad, but in small amounts, It intrigued me to the point that ADD kicked in. So I went to school for sustainable agriculture, learned all the sciences in between, and then I put that knowledge into the ground growing here in Southern California's Prop 215 market. I met a bunch of farmers who have never been to school a day in their life, but have been farming this plant for 20 plus years and gained their knowledge and their respect and continued moving forward. So as I'm using cannabis, I'm noticing the effects. Not only just the effects of using the product, but there was a saying, and where it comes from, it can be argued to the death. I've heard Sun Tzu, I've heard Bruce Lee, but what it did come from the Asian culture, and it says it's best to be a warrior and a gardener. It's best to be a warrior in a garden, not a gardener in a war. And for some reason, as I was getting out of service, that quote popped up. On what it was, I don't know, and it stuck with me. And as I got into the garden, I live in North County, San Diego, and we're on a few acres, and I have numerous citrus trees, like 30-something citrus trees, full-on gardens, you name it, all organic. And I was realizing while I was in the garden, I was at peace. And how to explain peace is I wasn't hypervigilant, I wasn't in the fast lane, I was in the slow lane with my cruise control on, not worried about shit. And I would consume my medicine, work in the garden, and an hour would go by, and I was an hour of the 24 hours in that day that I was not in the fast lane. My mind was at ease. And I realized there's more to just the usage of cannabis, that there is something that has to be there with plants and our symbiosis with plants. And I just wanted other veterans to know that too. So a lot of the guys we work and serve with are not guys that are going to go talk to a medical professional. We used to have a saying on the team, you just take that shit to the grave. It's what you do. We know what we did. We know what we did and why we did it. And you take that shit to the grave. And but sometimes they can come over and they can sit in the garden, or they can sit above the fruit trees on the hill and look over the valley and see the sunset in Fallbrook with all the agricultural area and just go, man, like at this point in time, we can just talk. And most of the time I don't say a fucking word, I just listen. And they just need someone to talk to. And guys like us, if we don't open up the ear, we won't talk. So it's a tough thing. It's the whole alpha male operator thing. But, that I found peace in it. And that's where I speak up to other veterans that I know who've chewed the same dirt we have. And I'm just like, hey, man, try this. I'm not asking you to do culture change. I'm not asking you to do anything. Try it out, see what you think. And a lot of the guys may not have picked up the usage of cannabis, but they're like, hey, dude, check out my tomatoes. What do you think? Or, look at these cucumbers coming in. I was like, man, I love gardening now. And it's like, it took us with the fast lane mindset, with the alpha mindset. And it says, man, it's almost like I'm in charge of troops again. If I don't water these plants, they're going to die. If I don't make sure the soil biology is correct, I'm not going to get the fruit that's going to provide for the right nutrition. So it's amazing what a garden can do to a warrior, for a warrior. And that's kind of been my mindset and my ideology ever since. We have all known somebody we served with here at Helmand Valley that has taken their own life. So we took it personal. I did. You got a lot of questions, a lot of whys, and you really feel bad for the family because they don't understand any more than anybody else. And, like I said with the garden, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not going to put this shit on paper, and I'm not putting it in your medical record. If you want to come over to the house and smoke a joint and sit in the garden and just talk, let's do it. I'll never, it could be 3 a.m., I don't care. Put a jacket on. We'll go out and take care of it. You can either fucking complain or you can get in the fight and do something about it. So that's kind of where I see it. I'm not going to sit here and bitch and complain about service or war and this and that when I'm not going to sit here and do anything about it. So that's kind of what we did. We did something about it, or attempted, or trying and still doing something about it. Yeah, my family, all the Marine Raiders who served from World War II to the new Raiders that fought in the new wars. Thank you. And to all the soldiers, airmen, Navy, and Marines out there, and Coast Guard, you guys are out there too, and everyone that ever helped, thank you. And you're not alone. So veterans, pick up the phone, check on your friends, and those that are struggling, you're not alone and you're not weak. Just call, and we'll do what we can to facilitate and work on to a better well-being.